Let's move on to the NFL. Big news a couple days ago, about a week ago, Brock Purdy got paid a massive contract. And the question that we have right now is, speaking of Purdy a system quarterback? So for clarification, Purdy came out after he got paid and laughed off the system quarterback label after his contract extension. And the question we have, is he a system quarterback, and does his new contract close the 49ers championship window? And Zach, the mic is yours.
All right, so I'll answer the first question to start us off. Is Brock Purdy a system quarterback? I think you can make the case, because if you take Brock Purdy out of San Francisco and put him on another team, I don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to replicate everything and the numbers that he's put up so far in San Francisco. But luckily, I think it's kind of a moot point, because Brock Purdy signed this big extension with the 49ers, and he's going to still have Kyle Shanahan as his head coach. It's not like he's going to another team. So I do think, although you could make the case Purdy is a system quarterback, I think it's kind of irrelevant, because he's staying in San Francisco. And when you look at the 49ers, I know they just traded Deebo Samuel, but they're still going to have plenty of weapons. Obviously, the health of this team, I think, is going to be very important. Probably the number one key for San Francisco going into this upcoming season. But I'm going to say this, guys, I'm pretty high on the 49ers entering next season. I think they're a pretty good buy low candidate after missing the playoffs this past year. And again, I understand they traded Deebo Samuel, but I really don't think that's some big loss. It's clear to me that Deebo Samuel has been getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse over the course of the last few years. I like replacing him with the combination of two guys in Juwan Jennings, who I think showed us just how good of a player he was last year, and Ricky Pearsall. Keep in mind, this guy was shot during the offseason, and he came back before the end of last season, and I thought he looked pretty promising. So I'm expecting both of those two guys to have nice seasons. I thought San Francisco made the right decision bringing back George Kittle, re-signing him instead of Deebo Samuel. And then you just got to hope Christian McCaffrey's healthy. And that's not a given, but we know when he's on the field just how good of a player he is. So I do think San Francisco, they're putting Brock Purdy in a position to succeed again this year based on what's around him. And I don't think their championship window is closed, because I think they're going to be really good this year. And I think when you look at the NFC, you should put the Eagles as the top dog, right? They just won the Super Bowl. We know how loaded that team is. I think Detroit, based on what they've done the last 2 years, they deserve a spot at the table. I would probably have them at number 2. But then after that, at number 3, I think you can make a reasonable case that the 49ers are right there. And I might just put them at number 3 in the NFC, because I'm just going to say this, I still believe in Kyle Shanahan. I know the 49ers were very disappointing last year, but I still think Kyle Shanahan is a top 5 coach in the NFL. And I think when he's your coach, and as long as your whole team doesn't get hurt like they did last year, I still think he's good enough where he'll have you right there at the end of the day. So I do not think the 49ers championship window is closed. I think they made the right decision paying Brock Purdy. We know that when you have a quarterback that's about to get paid in the NFL right now in 2025, most of the time you're probably going to have to give them a little bit more money than you want, more money than you feel comfortable with. But that's just the price of doing business these days. We know that quarterback is the most important position. You're not going to have a chance to win without one. And I like rewarding a guy that was Mr. Irrelevant and just a year later as a rookie took you to the NFC Championship game. That's not really something we see that often. So I think San Francisco handled this the right way. I'm looking forward to watching them play. And I think they're a major bounce back candidate entering this season.
Zay, you want to go?
Yeah, I think Zach hit it on the nail in terms of the system quarterback and Kyle Shanahan. Listen, I think Brock Purdy, I think two things could be correct in this regard. Brock Purdy is a system quarterback, and this 49ers team cannot go anywhere without Kyle Shanahan. I think when you talk about, I've been very critical of Kyle Shanahan. I feel like the 49ers as a team have one of the most talented rosters in football for years. I think if you put any coach on there, it's a bevy of riches, and they'll be able to have success wherever you deem success, whether it's the championship, whether it's the NFC championship, whatever you deem success. I think any coach could go there and succeed there. And the injuries have mounted for San Fran, which have created difficulties for for Purdy to have great stretches in the second half of the season or in the playoffs because there's always a marquee injury happening. I feel like the contract is a lot for a guy who was very, very reliant, as Zach said, on the star players not getting hurt. Right? It's football. People are gonna get hurt all the time. That's why you rely on the X's and O's for the next player to stand up, the next player. You're never gonna have star players, a fully healthy star roster, healthy, right? This roster is full of stars. The likelihood someone's gonna get hurt is very high. So you have to when you're paying this guy, you're telling me that he can make it happen when these guys get hurt, when McCaffrey's out, when Kittle's out, when Ayuk is out, or when Debo was out, or like whoever that guy is. You're paying this guy because you're saying he's the guy that could keep the offense flowing no matter what. Now Shanahan, you talk about the injuries. This is why the X's and O's are important, because when those guys are hurt, the next guy needs to stand up. The next guy's supposed to know the plays. That's why he's on the depth chart. That's why he's the next guy ready to go in the game. This is football. You're playing a contact sport. An injury is bound to happen, whether you like it or not. It's bound to happen. It's two gladiators colliding. Well, the X and O's are supposed to continue the winning. It's supposed to continue to push forward. You're not supposed to be losing to the underdogs, no matter how many injuries you have. You're supposed to be winning games. This is why I'm critical of Kyle Shanahan, because how many years I'm gonna say you have the most talented roster in football, and you come up short year after year after year. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, is the championship window closed for the 49ers? I don't believe so. Because I believe they got younger with their defense. And I think maybe that was an issue because a lot of injuries are happening to their defense at marquee moments. And I don't think the window is officially closed. But they have to continue winning football games when it matters. It's not the first 4 weeks of the season when you're on a 4-0 winning streak. It's not when you're the number one in the division in November. You have to win when it matters, and that is where the critique comes to Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't win when it matters. And we say this year after year after year, and we keep talking about injuries. This guy was hurt, that guy. Like, I don't care about the injuries. You have to show us why you're deemed a top 5 coach in the league. You have to show us that. You have not shown us that since you've been in San Fran. Just making it to the NFC Championship is not enough. So, I mean, again, two things could be right. I believe Purdy is a system quarterback because of Shanahan's system, but also I can't continue to give Shanahan the out with the injuries.
Yeah, I like the way how this went from a Brock Purdy conversation to I have a dream Kyle Shanahan thing by Zay there. But, I understand it. Anytime you talk quarterbacks on the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan is going to get talked about more than the quarterback. And that's obviously the issue here that I have, is that nobody believes that Brock Purdy is a standalone star. Everybody believes he's a system quarterback, and that very well may be true, right? You want me to get an opinion on that? Is he a system quarterback? I think we'll find out this upcoming season if he is a system quarterback or not. It's tough to talk about Brock Purdy and how good he is, because I think, to me, he's the most polarizing quarterback in the National Football League. And I think a lot of people in general associate the term elite with physical traits. Obviously, Purdy, outside of being a good scrambler, does not give you anything as far as those elite physical traits, right? And we all know labels follow you well into your NFL career from the collegiate game, right? It just happens like that. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts, he just won a Super Bowl, and I think there will be people who would never forget that he lost his job in college to Tua, okay? Because, that's what we remember you like. Some people would never forget that Brock Purdy was the last pick overall in the entire draft. Okay, that's going to stick with you for a long time. So that's why I always go back in my head. What if Brock Purdy won the championship a couple years ago? He played well in that game. What if he won that championship? Would our tune of change be different? Will we call him a system quarterback, or will we call him a Super Bowl champion, right? Or will we say it's Kyle Shanahan? Kyle Shanahan is the greatest coach of all time, right? Because we always associate a Kyle Shanahan quarterback with Mr. Kyle Shanahan. And I think, what Purdy has going against him as far as criticism is obviously him being the last pick in the draft. Whereas you flip it and you take a guy like C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, who were elite. They were elite in college. We all know who they were. They were very good quarterbacks, Heisman candidates, right? They got drafted in worse situations because they were that high and that good. They went to the Texans and the Commanders, two dumpster fires at the time, and they both got them to the playoffs in their first year. So now we can look and say, well, they're elite because their teams wasn't that good. The Texans had Noah Brown. All right. The Commanders had Noah Brown, right? Like, where's the number one? Where's the Tyreek Hill that Patrick Mahomes had? Where's that? No, that's because you were elite. So you're going to be drafted on a bad team. So you're going to be able to prove that you are elite. And that's what Stroud did. That's why we could call him elite. That's what Jaden Daniels did, having the best rookie season of all time. That's why we could call him elite already, a top 5 quarterback. Whereas you got Brock Purdy, who wasn't that he was bad in college. He was actually pretty decent. He was good at Iowa State, but he wasn't great enough by the eyes of the evaluators. So he got drafted into a greater situation that you could ever ask for, a Kyle Shanahan coach team with talent. And now because of that, it's the gift and the payoff there. Now, it's like, okay, well, you are part of the system. You got a great team and you're a system quarterback because guess what? You have the best coach in the league and you have Debo, Ayuk, and Fred Warner, and both sides of the ball is complete. So I think because of Brock Purdy's past, he's kind of being criticized for that. And because of perception and how we view elite and marry that with physical traits. Whereas you take a guy like Tom Brady. Was he the quarterback that can run? Was he Lamar Jackson fast? Hell nah. But guess what? He was the GOAT because he knew how to read a defense. He knew how to change things at the line of scrimmage. He knew he was clutch. That was the most important thing, right? Now, as far as Zay, you made a point saying that he's gonna have to accommodate for injury, Brock Purdy. That's why the contract is what it is, right? Because you got to show that you are elite, right? Now we having a different conversation. Now you're no longer Mr. Irrelevant. You Mr. Scrutinized now. Because if Ayuk goes down or Jennings go down, knock on wood, then can you overcompensate for that? Can you show that you can overcome that? Well, I would say this. So far, you got your answer to that question. Brock Purdy is 10-11 when any member of his Big Five does not play. We talking about a list that includes Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Brendan Ayuk, George Kittle in the middle, and Samuel. So any of those guys, if one of those guys do not play, he's 10-11. Okay? Obviously, we all know that Samuel was traded to the Commanders earlier this season. It's not a big loss to me. I think that he has regressed, but he's still a jack of all trades. He gives them stability still, a guy that you could hand the ball off to and let him do something with it and get open. But to me, ignoring the system quarterback part of the question, because I think that's TBD. I think we'll see that immediately this year if he is or not. I think that he got paid because of the belief in Kyle Shanahan personally. If I had to give you an opinion, I think this contract is more of a belief in Kyle Shanahan more than it is a belief in Brock Purdy. A belief that Kyle Shanahan can continue to scheme Purdy in positions to be successful so they can avoid the headache of finding another quarterback. Because if you don't pay Brock Purdy, okay, then guess what? You got to find you a quarterback. So do you want the headache of finding a quarterback when you just found a gem with the last pick overall and you had him for about a good 3 years as the cheapest quarterback? Come on, bro. So I think they didn't want to do that. And I think this contract, to sum it up, is basically saying I believe in Kyle Shanahan more than it is I believe in Brock Purdy. And to answer that question, that second part question, as I close here, I do believe that this championship window was closed. I am the opposite of Zach. I don't think this team is good. I think that this team has gotten old. I think they had their 2 cracks at it at a Lombardi, and they were late to the party. They had leads in both of those games, and they failed. They blew it. Kyle Shanahan is who he is. Okay, he's not going to change. He's a guy that when he has a lead, he coaches conservative. Okay, when he doesn't have a lead, then he's not as aggressive as he needs to be. I've seen the same thing too many times, and I'm a Kyle Shanahan guy. I still think he's one of the top coaches in the league, but he will never win the big one. Okay, he had 2 cracks at it. It's over. To me personally, they should have rebuilt it and embraced that rebuild, but they don't want to do that. They don't want the headache of looking for another quarterback, and that's why they pay Brock Purdy. So it is what it is.
Real quick. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Didn't Shanahan kind of shed that narrative, though, in the NFC Championship game against the Lions? I mean, they were down by 17 points going into the second half of that game. They were getting abused in the first half, and they still found a way to win it. And then last year, I actually just looked at
that more to Brock Purdy. I thought he made some good scramble plays. I remember that game like it was last night. There were a couple plays where he scrambled for the first down, that Ayuk tip drill that he, landed. Yeah, sure. He got to come back. That was one of them. But I seen too many blown leads.
Yeah, Purdy was great in that game. There's no doubt about it. And he played well in the Super Bowl. And that actually prompted me to look this up, guys. So last year, San Francisco, it's crazy. I looked at the record. I was like, they were 6-11 last year. Like, I didn't think they were that bad. And it turns out, they started the season off 6-6 and then just went on a brutal losing streak to end the season. That was when basically everyone was out. I remember they had one game against the Rams on Thursday Night Football where Purdy, as big of a fan of I am of his, he just really struggled in that one. But I just think there's too much talent to quit on this team. Like, Christian McCaffrey still is one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion. I know his health is a huge concern, but I'm still a believer in him. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, the 49ers paid him last offseason. It's not like they paid him, 3 or 4 off seasons ago. They still have a long contract of his. And I do think if he's healthy on the field, he's one of the better wide receivers in the league. I was very impressed with George Kittle last year. I didn't know at this time last year how much he had left, but he had a phenomenal season. I like Jennings. I like Pearsall. I think their offensive line, there were questions about Trent Williams and, just how much time does he have left. But I think John Lynch, their GM, made some really good draft picks over the course of the last few years to improve that offensive line. On defense, they still have Warner. They still have Bosa. They brought back Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator. I think that's going to make an impact. I think their defense is going to be a lot better. So I just still feel like there's so much talent on this team. I'm still a believer in Kyle Shanahan that I'm not going to quit them just yet. And I feel like outside of Philadelphia and Detroit, the NFC as a conference is pretty wide open. And I even think the NFC West as a division is pretty wide open. I mean, the Rams should go into the season as the slight favorite if you want to give them that. But I mean, Matthew Stafford, he's going to be 37 years old? Is Father Time ever going to hit him anytime soon? Because I'm still waiting for that to happen. I like San Francisco better than Arizona. I like San Francisco better than Seattle. I feel pretty confident about those two things. So, no, I'm not quitting on this team just yet.
Real quick, my bad. I wanted to just say something real quick. When did the system quarterback become a negative connotation? Like, when did everyone have to be a system? Like, when did the quarterback have to be the system? When did it have to be, I'm the playmaker? I am the de facto offense. I'm the offense itself. When did that become a thing? Is it because now we have dual quarterbacks that now the system has to be the quarterback? Like, it can't be the coach. You can't have a good coach anymore in order to give you some good X's and O's. Like, this term system quarterback, these young guys are taking it as a knock. The most winningest franchise quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. There's no system by itself. They are system quarterbacks. So why wouldn't you want to be a system quarterback when it's involved in winning, when it's involved in MVPs, when it's involved with Super Bowl after Super Bowl? Like, I don't understand where these guys like minds are when they have to be the end all be all. This is not Pee-wee football. Like, you're not gonna be the quarterback that's running for up and down the field and evading. Like, this is NFL. You play a role. Everybody plays a role on this football field. Yes, the quarterback is the leader, but that doesn't mean you have to be everything. The leader of the pack doesn't mean he does everything. You could be the leader of the pack, and someone else could be the best offensive player. Someone else could be the best defensive player. Someone else could give the best speeches, but you're the leader. But people just look at it, system quarterback, as if like that means we're putting you in a box like you're terrible. And I just don't see why, these guys take it as such.
I mean, I think that's a fair point, but I think it goes back to what we do. What we are doing right now when we talk sports and have debates and conversations, that's where narratives come into play, right? I think it's almost like pound for pound in boxing. Who determines pound for pound? Like, that's a list that we make up, that we change and alter after every single fight. But guess what? It's a part of the game. It's a part of the conversation. It's a part of the game. So I think the same thing here could be with system quarterbacks. Is a way to talk about the game and classify quarterbacks in each group, just like how we do elite, we do with system quarterbacks. But I do agree, it's not a bad label. It's not a bad thing to be a system quarterback if you're winning games, right? It's not a bad situation to be in where you can ride shotgun and you have a great football team with guys that are capable to make plays for you. Like, it's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. But I do think that when you do get paid, and I understand how the quarterback market works, you're going to have average quarterbacks getting paid above average money. I'm not going to sit here and literally debate the quarterback market. The quarterback market is the quarterback market, right? But I do think the way how I see it and the way how I think it should be, once again, now we're getting into the opinion mode, is basically you have to show when you do get that contract that you are a game changer when you do lose a Kittle, because Kittle's always going to be hurt. This guy's injury prone. He's a good player, good tight end, but he's hurt a lot. Ayuk is coming back from an ACL injury. Deebo Samuel just got traded. Okay, so Trent Williams is, still a very good player at his position, but this team has been known for injuries. So I don't know how we dismiss, like, we think they're going to be healthy this year. Obviously, we don't know that if they are or if they're not. But they had 2 cracks at championships, and we can't flirt around. CMC is injury prone. So again, we are banking on them getting healthy. That's not always a good bet. Like I said, when you have 2 championship appearances and you're healthy, it's a game of football, right? You got to win one of those, especially when you have leads, and they blew both of those. So I don't know why or how people think that they can rewrite that and come back when they have gotten significantly older than before. Another thing, too, we can sit here and talk about how they brought in Robert Saleh, who I think is a good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's meant to be a head coach. But again, Zach, I asked you this. Have the 49ers been drafting well over the last couple of years? Because I'm like iffy on that. Like, they've drafted good players in the past, but if you look at the last couple of drafts, what player do you know that they drafted that's like a franchise changer, like a Micah Parsons, like the Eagles had drafted great players like Cooper DeJean? Like, name me one of those guys that they drafted in the last 2-3 drafts.
The one guy that stands out is Pooney on the offensive line. He's not like a flashy player, but I believe he was a 2nd-round pick, and I think he's made their offensive line better. It's also tough because they've been making conference championship games and Super Bowls, and it's tough to find those players late in the draft. I like the kid they drafted this year, Mykel Williams out of Georgia, and he's going to be a key piece. I think he's going to be pretty good, and I think he's a big reason why I'm expecting this team to bounce back. I think he's a really good player that's going to be impactful on the defensive end. So remember that name, Williams. And Ricky Pearsall, I'm a fan of this guy. I think he's going to step into Deebo Samuel's shoes, and by the end of the season, I feel like San Francisco isn't going to be missing Deebo that much.
We'll see. I like Ricky Pearsall, but once again,
nice.
we talking about a team that passed on a couple of great players. They could have got Jamar Chase, I believe, at that draft, but they traded for who? They traded up for who? Trey Lance. This team is a team that gave us one of the worst trades of all time, which is them moving up to trade a guy that can't even make the Cowboys roster. Yeah, so I think that speaks for itself. Again, I'm not, excuse my French, I'm not shitting on Kyle Shanahan here. I think he's still an elite coach, but I just think that if you out here trying to win a division and that's your parade when you made 2 championships and had opportunities to win it, I think you're moving backwards. And I just don't think this team is capable of winning another championship. And I think they blew their opportunities, and that's why I think they should embrace the inevitable, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens going forward with them.
One last point on this, I just looked it up, and I didn't even realize this. So the 49ers, they drafted 13 players in this past year's draft. They had a 1st-round pick, a 2nd-round pick, 2 3rds, 2 4ths, 2 5ths, and 3 7ths. So hopefully, out of the 13 players they just drafted, just a few of them will be able to make an impact, especially Mykel Williams from Georgia. I think he's going to be pretty good.
All right, we'll see what happens with the 49ers going forward. And if Brock Purdy can live up to the contract that he just got and if Kyle Shanahan and company could have a bounce back season. Stay locked in for that.